Nice and calm this morning, but perfect mosquito weather. That's why I'm dressed like this. Gloves, coveralls. Otherwise I'd be eat alive. But, so I just checked the forecast on the Weather Network, and right now they have for 2 weeks, it's perfect growing weather. I have been feeling sick and not getting things done. I'm falling behind, including not being able to put out the videos as I'd like. So this one though, because of the weather forecast, I said I'm going to jump on right now and do a quick report on how things are in the garden right now. And with that perfect growing conditions, everything should be growing at its max for, like I say, 2 weeks, and we'll see what it's like in 2 weeks. So let's start, and right now we'll do a quick run around and do the highlights of what we expect to be a big difference in 2 weeks' time. So first, here's the grapevine. Of course, now the grapevine itself, it grows like crazy anyway. But I'm taking note of how the flowers are progressing. And it is, as it's been the last few years, pretty much loaded in little clusters of flowers. I always forget the name of this one, but anyway, this is the one I cut down earlier. You can see that it is growing quite well. And not only that, I just noticed it's going to be putting out flowers, so before 2 weeks is up, now this will be flowered out. The rose bush the buds are just opening. It's not in full bloom yet. I planted out the tomatoes and squash. I do have footage, but like I say, I've been sick, and so this is why the video of this has not been out yet. That's my Berkeley tie-dye, and I have one heirloom butternut there. I put a second one in here. It had a little bit of life when I put it there, but as you can see now, it's gone. The flowers have come and gone on the lilac, but I do have a picture of it, so I can put that up. These are a mixture of tomatoes. They seem to have taken well to the transplant. Some of them are quite tiny, and I have bigger ones. Now they're not planted that deep because the soil is not soft very deep. I add the one in there. Doesn't seem to have taken too well to the transplant. We'll see what happens. And there's another squash right there. Along this front fence here, this is where I put my bush beefsteak. They were the best according to the transplants, and every one of them right now, they look short, but they are planted nice and deep. So there's as much, if not more, below the soil level as you see on top. Along the back, so that's one of the cucamelons there. It looks like those two didn't survive after I planted them. There's one in there, I can see its leaf. So right now I'm only seeing 2 cucamelons that I see survived the transplant. And then all the way along, most of the cucumbers that I have in those little divots that you see along by the fence. So there's a cucumber plant in each one. So most of them have all survived. There's a volunteer squash right there. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 volunteer squash so far have popped up in this area. So we'll see how well they grow. Actually, no, that's a cucumber there, so that's my biggest cucumber plant in the back right there. Along by this fence has been done, there's the regular edible pod peas put all the way along by the fence. I had 2 little runts of tomatoes left, and I planted them here. Sunrise Bumblebee and Alata. They took to the transplant well. We'll see how they go now over these next 2 weeks, whether they will just take right off or what they'll do. Over on this side of the rose bush, I put my neon pumpkins because I didn't have other areas ready to plant them, so this is the only place I had. They seem to have taken to the transplant well and still fairly sturdy. This is the plant where we'll see how that grows now over the summer, see what it looks like. We'll talk about that when I do the main garden tour, but right now we're just reporting on what things look like so that we can see what it looks like in 2 weeks' time. There is a columbine growing right there. I do have a little bit. When I was cleaning out the bed, I took up most of the wood sorrel, but that's wood sorrel there. So there's still a little bit there. When I did, I soaked the peas, pre-soaked them when I went to plant along that other section of the fence, and I found out I had more than I needed for that section. So along these first 2 pieces of this fence, I also have peas planted. On the outside, the columbine that I took up from the bed where I put the cabbage family plants, and that was one I just done a close-up of. Here's another one. Little tiny one down there. So we'll see how those grow. At the end of this now, that lovage, if you remember last year, it was just a little tiny thing, and this year it's growing bigger. So it's not just the weather that will dictate how much this lovage plant will grow. It's also, it had a harder time getting settled in than the one up where the rest of the herbs are, and it's got itself settled in now. And will it take off and grow 6 feet tall? I don't know. This St. John's wort seems to be doing just fine, and it was the same thing. It was quite a bit lower last year, and it's doing better this year. We are watching how fast the cherries grow on this Romeo cherry, and some of them are obviously been pollinated and the cherries are growing. Some of them are, okay, what are you going to do yet? And some of them are obviously not been pollinated. The smoke bush, I don't know why, but this year it's completely covered in buds for flowers. Now when those flowers, how showy it will be when those flowers open, well, we'll find out. I've never seen it covered in flower buds like this before. I never got a chance to touch this bed yet, but here's the one of the elecampane that I planted here last year. There's another one here, and another one here. There are strawberry plants in here with the strawberries on, but no ripe ones. The St. John's wort, I just planted little tiny plants. It seems to be loving it here. This is not a super well amended bed, and the way that's growing there, I think the environmental conditions is just perfect for that St. John's wort. So putting compost down around, that should grow like crazy. The brassicas still doing wonderfully. I am so far really pleased. There is holes in the center which would suggest to me beetle damage, because slugs and caterpillars, they usually go from the edge. See, there's a slug over there. Now there are some slugs coming in and starting to eat on some of them, but right now you can see that's still there and growing beautifully. And here's the other ones. Most of the initial leaves now have died. This is the one seemed to be getting attacked the most with the slugs. Jerusalem artichoke, they're growing like crazy. I can't even find where the flowers were on this tree, so I guess despite it having quite a few flowers on it, I'm not going to get any fruit off it this year. This tree is still being cause for excitement. As you can see, it's leaved out very well. This is a red mulberry, and this is its first year here, so we're going to see now how fast that will grow given perfect growing conditions. It seems to love the soil that it's in. Pixwell gooseberry, it doesn't seem to love it there. I don't know, it's been there now a couple of years and it's not really growing that good. In here there's a damson tree that initially had died, but the shoot is coming up here. It seems to be doing better each year, so we're keeping an eye on that and seeing, like, this might be the year that it'll take right off. Next time you see this blueberry bush, hopefully it won't be buried in weeds. But look at that bunch of flowers that's on it. So this is a high bush blueberry, and right now it's being restricted by the weeds. We'll see how fast it starts to grow. That one, I put that there in the fall, right? Yeah, put that one there last fall. The glory of the rhododendrons is come and gone, but I do have a picture of it in full bloom. And this new growth looks nice too, with its nice soft color. There are some things, see, and it's still buried in the weeds. I have some green lemon thyme there, but like I say, I haven't been well, and I've some of that you're not going to be able to judge. This Romeo cherry, you can see how much it has grown already this year. I mean, that's put on like 5 inches of growth, and it's just early July yet. Once again, my seaberry in pots is buried in weeds. I have a volunteer lettuce here, and that what I just pulled out. I got to come out and get a garden salad, because that's all this stuff. This is lamb's quarter. It's very delicious. Take the leaves, put it in your salad, put your salad dressing on, way to go. So, but maybe when I do get the weeds out, then in 2 weeks we will be able to judge just how much they've grown. Here's something that's kind of making me sad. See, this is the black knot that is now just in its growing phase and it's puffed right out. And it's just eating through this tree. This is the plum tree. And I really don't know what to do about it. The one thing to make note of course, you got the plum tree here being heat with black knot. You've got a cherry tree here with not a speck of black knot on it. So that cherry tree is very black knot resistant. So we take special note of this. I've got the yellow straight neck squash, 4 of them. And then there's 6 Queensland blue squash down along here, and see how fast they grow, because as you can see it's there's no weeds around them, and we'll be able to see exactly how well they do in the next 2 weeks. The fruit is beginning to grow on the apple tree behind the hen house. This is the only apple tree that I had any flowers on worth talking about. I don't know if all of them have been pollinated yet, because there seems to be quite a few there that are not swelling up on the base. But the ones that are, well, they're just started, so the other ones might swell up yet. See, this one is just starting to swell. So we'll check back in on that in 2 weeks' time. I have to check and see, what is that one? I put coriander seed here last year, and it didn't grow all that well. But I do have that plant here. I have to figure out what it is. But other than that, the parsley and the catnip are doing just perfectly fine, along with the savory and these 2 lavender. Now this thing is growing like crazy, but the flower heads are here. I don't know if that's where we had those few days of over 30 degrees, and now it's putting on flower heads because of that, because it's not up to 6 feet tall. We'll have to wait and see through the summer, but yeah, it's growing just gangbusters, same as it did last year. The sage is about to flower. These 6 beds of potatoes, that's the first ones I put in. As you can see, they're up far enough now that the next sunny day I can mow some of the meadow and mulch all of these. And then I put in that bed of red potatoes. Over here I put chickpeas in here to see what would happen, because I didn't have anything that I wanted to plant in pretty much deep shade. I've got 1 plant here and 1 plant here. I thought there was a 3rd one in this bed, but I don't see it now. There's a volunteer cole crop coming up right there. I don't know what that is. The rhubarb is growing great. This is going all the way to seed. But there's another chickpea plant right there. So that was exciting, and we'll see how well they grow in deep shade now over these next couple of weeks. The tiger's eye beans transplants, they survived a little longer, and they didn't really die. Like, most of them are still, they're struggling to come back. Some of them died, but you go down here, this is what I direct sowed. So I shan't be putting out transplants for beans anymore. There's 2 squash here. This is the vegetable marrow squash. The rutabaga doesn't seem to have sprouted as well here, germinated as well as over in where I got the full bed of rutabaga, but they are coming along, and It's hard to see them among the weeds right now, but still you can see how high the weeds in that are, so you'll know how much the rutabaga has grown. If hopefully I've got the weeds taken out of it when I show it to you again. Those are doing beautiful, eh? And there's not much damage on them. There's a couple on that leaf down there, but it seems like they're doing just perfect. So I am quite happy. What I put here is mashed potatoes. So that's 2 mashed potato squash there, and 2 more right here. So if they do well, I shall be extremely happy. And they're not a long season. They are winter squash, but they're not like 100 or more days, right? They're on 90 or less days. This is the bed that you've seen me make, and the potatoes are just coming up now. I'm getting a rain shower. Up until yesterday, it was just too hot to even harvest this. So I'm going to harvest some more now, probably today. But when it's hot and it's just, you feel the stalk and it's all like sandpaper and hot. Like, nah, I'm not harvesting that. I'm gonna wait for it to swell up a bit. Here you see, most of what you see there is the leaves of the rutabaga. So they done very well here. There's a little bit of a space there. That plant is about to flower, so we'll find out what that is. Among the weeds here, the beets are doing fairly well, but I do notice a space there, so I will reseed any spaces once I get this weeded out. I'm thinking about taking that borage up, because borage gets to be a large plant, and basically, if I let that grow there, anything that needs sun is not going to grow underneath it. I want to try and transplant that over at the end over there, and have a borage plant growing over there. This thing is, of course, all flowered out now. We'll get some seed off of that this year and see how we can develop Brussels sprouts for Newfoundland. Now here, okay, so what I did, I had this half of the bed was transplants, and then the other half of the bed was direct sowed. I had a couple of direct sowed, didn't come up. But over here they all died. I soaked some beans and planted them beside where each one was. And see, here's the original one right there. This is from the bean that I soaked and transplanted. Another one there. You see, here's the original from the one that I soaked. The original, and from the new reseeding. This one here, you can see where the original was, and the new seeding. So those that you see there, that is from a late planting where I pre-soaked the beans and I planted them. And almost every one of them came up. So yeah, pre-soak your beans, plant them at around the last frost. You have twice as many beans as you need, and then you soak as many as you need at about last frost, average last frost, you plant them. Then if you get a late frost, you've got that extra that you can just re-sow. Garlic, well, garlic was doing wonderful fine anyway, and it's pretty much full grown. You're not going to see much difference in that. There is not one strawberry. It looks like this is the first strawberry starting to turn color right there. Last year, my first strawberries was on July the 2nd. The year before that it was July the 3rd. And here it is July the 6th, and still no ripe strawberries. And it's going to be a few days before I do get ripe strawberries. So that's basically how far we're behind. Red potatoes, they're not all up in this bed. Now they're a good seed stock here, and older ones. So over here, this is the one where I had to put in the fresher manure, because remember I didn't have anything old stuff to put there. And the seed that I put in, it was the last of the seeds, so they're little tiny seeds, but they're all coming up. Jacob's cattle, same thing. All the transplants didn't do worth squat. I have a Burgess Buttercup put over in that corner, and another one right there. There's a couple of beans here. I did re-sow this with soaked beans. The Jacob's cattle beans don't seem to come up as well as the Tiger's Eye and Black Turtle, but they're doing alright. Once again, you know, when I'm going out weeding this, there's a lot of weeds here that's going to go to the salad bowl. These lamb's quarter, they are delicious. Of course, I got a dandelion there, can go to the salad bowl as well, and mustard greens, they can go in the salad. The carrots are coming along just fine. I do have some spaces that I'm going to re-sow, sowing them through the pipe like I do. If you doing it with the wet soil, soil starts to clog up in the pipe. So the next dry day, I'm going to, sunny day, whatever, I'm going to re-sow any spaces that is in this bed. Over in this bed, there's not very many spaces. Funny thing, eh? The carrots did better in this bed. The weeds did better in this bed. But most of what you see here are carrots, and they're well spaced. I won't have to do any thinning. And we have two more volunteer squash. What they are, we won't know until they actually get grown. In among here, there is some, I had some onion seedlings that started really late. And you see they're just a little wisp of thing. I planted them here because, well, the bean transplants didn't survive, and I only had so many seeds for soldier bean, and so I didn't have anything to put back here. What I've got done now, I did put a bunch of chickpea seeds in here. I put those onion seedlings in there, and there's a gold nugget squash and another gold nugget squash there. So it almost seems like this is going to want to flower pretty soon, and it may be due to it went from cold and rainy and I couldn't get them hardened off to hot and sunny, and they may, even though the leaves are surviving that, they might have been, hey, it's hot, we've got a flower now, sort of a deal. Of course, direct sow the soldier beans, and this is what happens. They come up and do just fine. Those couple over there, because that was the end, that stick was the end of where I had seed for soldier. Those are Jacob's cattle. And then there's the gold nugget squash there, and one there. Now another thing I'm happy about, I have cosmos coming up. There's several cosmos and a whole bunch of chamomile. So these smaller ones here, that's chamomile, and these here, there's not a whole lot of difference in the looks, but there is a difference. Those are cosmos. So I'm happy with that. I'll have my cosmos and my chamomile growing once again. Over here, I took it down among the plants. Let's see, you're going to see this one. I'll get the name of it, and because I keep forgetting the name, put it on the screen. But I have this one planted here. There's another one there. I have this one seems to be growing already, so he might take right off. That's of course a columbine. Another one of these guys down here. And I think that's about the best of them right there. Is it delphinium? I think it's delphinium. Oh, this one is about ready to flower, you see? It does this every year. It comes, when it flowers, it's almost turns white and you can't see the leaves. I'll back off a little bit so you can see. You see, this is the whole full bush. Beautiful bush, even just the bush itself. And then, like I say, when the flowers comes out, it's pretty much a white bush because of all the flowers. I am going to have such a good onion harvest this year. I'm going to put you down close. I mean, look at these onions. I've had good onion harvests in the past, but I've never seen them this good at this time. I haven't gotten to taking out the apple tree seedlings yet due to health issues, but they'll come along. Now that big one over there, that's one that was already there, but when I weeded this out, I think I lost 4, and there's almost 300 in there. Quick overview of what it's like so that we can gauge on how fast it will growing. We're getting moisture now, but that's something I can keep moisture with them even if it does go exceptionally dry. And after today, I'm talking low 20s. They're forecasting low 20s in the days, like up to 25 degrees Celsius, and then down to about 17, 16 degrees Celsius at night. So that is the perfect growing temperature for most plants, really. And we'll see what it's like. Hope you enjoyed the overview. Don't forget, you hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to follow along. And I'll see you in the next video.